All right, everybody, welcome to class today. Did everybody have a good weekend?
Yeah.
Everybody had a good week? All right. Well, we're in the spooky season almost, guys, and going along with our 13 colonies, we're starting the Salem witch trials. All right. If you will, the new packets are on your desk for the Salem witch trials. Will everybody get up real quick and go and get your folders so when we're done we can put them in there? So go ahead and get up and get your folder.
For the interruption. Freshmen with the last name starting with U through Z. U through Z, freshmen to the auditorium at this time.
So here you go, Mr. Taggett. Jackie, you're here. Mary Ann, Ben, John. Okay, so now that everybody's got that, you've got your packet. All right, we're going to do a refresher real quick. So we've been learning about the 13 colonies, specifically what area of the 13 colonies? New England. Good job, New England, right? And New England really started around one colony in particular. It started with Massachusetts, right? Started with Massachusetts. And there were two groups of people that came and settled at Massachusetts. Do you remember what they were? One we hear about every year during Thanksgiving. Pilgrims. And the other one were the Puritans, right? The Pilgrims and the Puritans, all right? So, we know that the Pilgrims came here for religious freedoms. What did the Puritans come here for? Religious control, right? They wanted to purify the church. They thought that the church in England had gotten too lax, and so they came and they wanted to purify England. Good job. So, the Puritans are who we're going to be focusing on through the Salem witch trials, okay? The Puritans are going to be one of the main focal points. Now, when we start this lesson, we're going to answer who, what, when, where, and why. We've already kind of started on the who. There's a lot of players into it. But the Puritans are one of the people, right? One of the who's. Okay? What? The Salem witch trial. We'll go more into detail to answer this question. When? We'll go over that too. Where? Well, we already know. Salem, Massachusetts. Good. And then why? Why were they doing this? And what we're going to find out is basically a big game of kind of playing he said, she said with a little bit of rumors and gossip. And we're going to see how far that this gets taken. Now, for those of you who can't see the screen on our display when we get started, I have posted the assignment on your MacBooks. You can follow along with that. On your packet, you have been given to take notes, and we will fill in the blanks. For those of you that can't see, just go ahead and continue. You can work ahead, but be ready for class discussion and questions when we move forward with this packet. All right? So, these are the questions. We're going to get started. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right. Let's get started. Does anybody know anything about the Salem witch trials before we begin?
I know nobody was actually burned.
No one was actually burned. That's a great...
All of what I knew before this was that there were two girls that were active.
Man, y'all are old. All right, so one of the questions, where? Where did this happen? Well, it takes place in Salem Village, Massachusetts. Right? That's going to be our where. Right? That's one of our 5 questions. We're going to have to answer where. Where did this happen? All right? Now, they broke away from Salem to have their own religion. They wanted religious freedom. Right? Now, families in the town were fighting over land, losing crops, and livestock. All right? So, has land been a common theme under the 13 colonies so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody wants more of it, right? From indentured servitude, people that were willing to become basically slaves. For what end goal? What were they trying to get when they signed up to be an indentured servant? Land, right? So from land, losing crops. What have we seen in Jamestown in the previous? What does losing crops, what does that do? Starvation, which leads to death, right? And then livestock goes along with crops. Now, it was blamed as the wrath of God. Remember when I told you the Puritans? If something good happened, it was because God was happy, right? And if something bad happened, it was because God was angry. That's what the Puritans believed, right? So, the reason why they were losing crops and livestock was because they hadn't prayed enough. They hadn't gone to church enough. They hadn't lived a good enough life yet, right? Now, they were under British rule in Salem, but there was no governor of Salem. There was a governor of Massachusetts. Okay? Everybody got that? Now, we go into how. How did it start? Well, this gives us more of our who's and goes back to what Jackie was saying. It also gives us our when. In February of 1692, Betty Paris, 9 years old, and Abigail Williams, 11, were described as being bewitched. Now, they were cousins. They were 9 and 11, and they were cousins. The girls screamed, threw things around their room. They uttered strange noises, crawled under furniture, and contorted themselves into a peculiar position. Those are big words, right? So, contorted, that means they kind of moved their body and it looked really weird. You guys ever see anybody do that? Like where they put their arm? Yes, Jackie?
I can actually do that because I'm flexible.
There you go. That's an example of...
You'd probably get accused of being a witch if you were flexible.
Exactly, right? Now, they also said they complained of being pricked with pins or cut with knives while this was happening, okay? And when the Reverend Samuel Paris would preach, the girls would cover their ears as if not wanting to hear it, like it hurt them, right? Like if the preacher was preaching, they'd cover their ears, they'd rock, they'd scream, right? They'd have issues. Everybody doing good so far? Good. Are there any questions so far about what's going on? We got to remember now, Betty and Abigail are kind of going to get this whole thing kicked off. Whether they were bewitched or not, the things they said are going to have huge consequences coming up. Huge. Okay. Dennis, we good? Okay. So, again, you should start with the February of 1692. Right? Betty Paris and Abigail Williams are going to be words you're going to write down. Then you say girls screamed, threw things, and uttered strange sounds. Crawled under the furniture and contorted themselves. Now, this is a lot for this one. This will probably be one of the biggest paragraphs you'll have to fill in on the blanks here. Okay, so now that we've gotten through our discussion and our PowerPoint over the Salem witch trials for our first part on day one, who were some of the main characters? Who were the two people that they believed started to be bewitched? Ben?
Betty and Abigail.
Betty and Abigail, right, perfect. Now, who were the first three women to be accused in the Salem witch trial?
Cuba, Sarah Goodman, and Sarah Osborne.
Awesome, great. Now, when did all of this occur? Ben? Dennis? 1692, perfect, right? For about a year in 1692. It lasted a year and a half. Where did this occur? Ben?
Salem, Massachusetts.
Salem, Massachusetts, right? And then finally, why? Why did all of this happen? Jackie?
Two girls were bewitched. They were screaming, complaining about like pins and knives, like poking them.
Okay, now, what ultimately happened? What was the final goal of all of this? What finally happened? How many people Over how many people were held on trial? Over
100.
100, right? How many people were hanged? 20. 20 people were hanged, right? Good.
It says 19.
19 to 20. Yep. And then finally, there's a common misconception. Was anybody burned at the stake in the Salem witch trials?
No.
No, they were not, right? They were hung, except for one man. What happened to that one man?
He was pressed to death.
He was, yeah, stone pressed to death, right? He was laid and he was pressed to death. Okay. So, yes.
I think the thought of people thinking witches got burned was that they burned the bodies of the witches that were hanged.
Right, because they weren't allowed to bury them. That is a great observation. Now, tomorrow, guys, on day 2, now that we know why everything happened, tomorrow we're going to have this CSI, and you're going to go through these different theories as to why the girls felt bewitched, right? We know a little bit about why they may have thought, like some kind of fungus, maybe it was something that they were eating, or they had a brain swell. And you guys, working together as a class, we're going to figure out why they might have acted the way they did. All right, and that'll be day 2. Day 3, like I said, we're going to do, could you survive the Salem witch hunt? All right, you guys are doing great. We'll get back to it tomorrow. Thank you.